for cars and trucks. Worked down there for about 6 months, because back then it was a big deal to send all these engineers to the remote locations to figure out how to improve systems. And at that time, I was back in the Stone Ages. We were looking at flexible manufacturing systems, but we could only kind of project them through these simulations, which you guys have a whole gaming system that does it completely different than what we do now, what we used to do. And then I worked up, when I left Columbia, worked in the sales office. I switched over to marketing and sales when I came back, and worked in Troy, Michigan for a while, and learned a lot about being up in Michigan as well. We won't talk about that, those universities that are up that way, since they're rivals of ours, but it was a good experience, and I enjoyed the corporate experience, but the passion I always had was in education. Even when I was a student here, I tutor students as math. And most of you are the same way. I love math. And so, but I had a lot of friends that lived on campus in other majors that detested it. So I did tons of tutoring when I was here, and just had a love for it, to see when the light bulb would come on, if I could explain something well enough for even students who had been risk averse in math for K through 12, but having to deal with it on campus at Purdue, and them able to get it and get through the course and go ahead and graduate. So that's what, again, made me want to parlay back into the higher ed side, and not knowing I would end up back at my home school, so to speak. I started off doing some math teaching at Ivy Tech, but an opportunity came up. I didn't know what Polytech was doing at the time, but it fit with having so much work experience, being able to bring that into the classroom, and then now moving forward with how we're looking at projects like you guys are working on, and engagement work that I don't remember Purdue doing that much of when I was here. But to see that this national research institution is investing in you all to do this kind of work, and it's work I hope you have a passion for, because it definitely pays dividends than some of the corporate work you'll do as well. So again, I thank you guys for your time, and if you have any other questions of me. Yes. Let me let you, yeah, because we.
When you're planning events, how do you, if you're brainstorming ideas, how do you choose which one is going to best accomplish your goals?
This is almost divine. It's funny you would say that. I'm also a practitioner with what's called strategic doing, and it was developed here from the Agile Labs here on campus somewhere. I haven't been to them. But strategic doing is a way to plan a project. So it doesn't work well, let's say, if you're trying to figure out a technical solution, but when you're trying to figure out a project solution, strategic doing is definitely the way to go, because we come together and we go through a process within a 2-hour period to really come up with the project, and it's on a metrics that we look at, which is the one that can make the most impact, and which is the one easiest for us to probably do. And it's something we try to make sure we get done in 3 to 4 months. So so if you want to Google that, it's strategicdoing.net, and it's a great format and a whole different way of doing things than just living with the strategic plan that I grew up with, that we did it and it was kind of a document, but we really didn't do much with it. And strategic doing focused you to do something, but do something where everybody on the team bought into it, because you did feel it was going to make the most impact and the easiest to pull off. Thank you for that question, because they didn't even come to mind to mention that till you said that. But anything with projects, I would look to get some exposure to that. And again, it started here on Purdue's campus. Scott Hutchinson, I think, is still working with it here. A lot of the faculty moved to Northern Alabama University in Florence, Alabama, so they've got a group down there, but we're still doing it here as well. But I definitely would look into that, because I've never seen anything like it, because we stay focused on what's called a framing question. And the framing question starts off saying, imagine if this was true. Imagine if we could do this, what would it look like? And so it gets to thinking completely different. And then as you're brainstorming, you keep taking yourself back to, does this meet the need of the framing question? So that's what hooked me, was the framing question. When you say imagine, then you're making me look forward and not worry about what didn't work in the past. Thanks for that. Yes?
So my project is like education-based, I guess, teaching What are ways that you found, excuse me, what are ways you found to be most effective to teach students or kids to promote STEM careers?
It's almost as long as they can do something, and you guys are the same way. It's a generation that don't talk to me much, kind of give me a little bit of how to do something, let me see if I can do it. And normally we've always done some type of projects, even when we have high schoolers come for our recruiting. And you guys remember your campus visit days where they kind of gave you a tour and talked about things. We bring you right in and we're doing a project. Where there's some project we're going to have you do where you're going to have to figure it out, and we give you some hidden pieces that you may not know we may give you later, just to see if that creative thinking can happen. So as long as you're doing something where they're able to actually apply it, and then try to make it as non-traditional as possible too, because sometimes especially if there's some of their family members may have worked, like grandparents or whatever, worked in a factory. That's where their mind may be with engineering. And so whatever you can do to expand that, and of course connect it to, because a lot of celebs are promoting STEM as well. So any of those vignettes you can find where some celeb, that generation, whether they're somebody on TikTok or whatever, is promoting STEM, we throw that kind of stuff in too, because then they're going to believe that endorsement, so to speak. So that's what we try to do as well. Any others?
Thank you very much to all of you for attending, and more important, thank you to Dr. Faye Robert and me for attending here. So at least a round of applause, please.
Yeah. And thanks for putting up with my sinuses and my nasals. It's actually cleared up a little better than what I sounded earlier today, so it might have helped coming up and talking some more.
If you have a question that you want to kind of ask off record, just please stay a little bit, and we'll be happy to support you. Thanks.
Okay, good meeting you. Great projects too. Very good projects. Okay, am I good on this? Okay. So are the seniors, are you guys all finishing up in May?
I'm graduating in December.
So so you know where you're going yet to work?
No.
Good, don't push it.
Still
Don't.
figuring it out.
Yeah, just take your time. Yeah, I love this church too. I'm such a